Happy birthday to your wife. Hey.
Dinner plans. Flowers card. What's that? Flowers card. All weekend long. Hope that laptop is working great because Jake was sweating it today.
It's working. I just gotta figure some things out. Awesome.
In about 10 seconds. 9, 8, 4.
You understand my chicken scratch in there, Mr. President?
Yes, thank you. It's to teach junior high handwriting. This is great. This is like architecture handwriting. 3. There's Todd. 2, 1. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, May 24th, 2022. As always, before we get underway, we have a local pastor come and pray before we get underway. Tonight we have Pastor Don Leonard from the Nazarene Church. Thanks for being our guest this evening, Pastor Leonard.
Thank you for having us. It's good to be here with all of you. Let's go to the Lord together in prayer. Our Father, tonight we come into your presence. We want to thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for these that you've given responsibility to lead our great community. Father, be with them tonight. Help them with the decisions that need to be made. Pray for wisdom. Pray for unity when all the discussion is finished. And Lord, may your will be done in all that we do. May you be glorified in our community. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thanks for taking time from your busy evening to be with us this evening.
You're welcome.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present except for Mr. Waxler this evening. Mr. Waxler is attending to some family business. Do we have a motion to excuse him this evening? Motion, Mr. Resti. Second, Mr. Engel. All those in favor of excusing Mr. Waxler this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We'll excuse Mr. Waxler from this evening's proceedings. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To start off the evening this evening, we have a special guest. We have Bryant McAfee, the Director of Business Development for Omni Fiber, who's our guest this evening. Thanks for visiting us.
Absolutely. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I have some very exciting news for you and the city. Omni Fiber is a fiber optic broadband solutions provider, and we've selected the city of Defiance as a city that we're going to be building in. Well, what does that mean for you? Well, I've got a little presentation I'd like to show you, and we're going to walk through exactly who we are and what our plans are for your city. We're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. We are local to Ohio, and our call center for customer care is based out of Milford, Ohio. We are, when you look at what's happening in the world today with the emphasis from the federal government and everywhere else about needing faster access for people, especially during these last 2 years where we've all become more reliant on working from home, or we've all been reliant on our kids having schoolwork being done at home. This is a great option, but you are the circle that is inside the donut. You don't qualify for a lot of the federal funding, so we're here to help. We were founded just this past year, but our sister company's been in business for more than 15 years and currently serves more than 2 million households in 15 states in the US. We're focused on cities your size in Ohio to bring them up to speed and bring future-proof technology so that your residents and community can experience all the amenities that larger cities currently have available to them. Yes, you have an incumbent provider, and there are options for internet service and video service and telephone service today. We want to be that other option that residents can choose from. Our leadership team has more than 80 years worth of experience. All of us have been in telecommunications. I myself have been in telecommunications for more than 30 years. And I can tell you from experience, I've seen every iteration of what technology can do to enhance your lives. This is the next evolution of that. Next slide. So why are we here? We want to invest $9.5 million in your city. This is money that we're investing, private funding, not anything that we're relying on from federal, local, or state money. And this is something that we're bringing to your city to upgrade that architecture and network. We want to do our best to absolutely minimize any disruption that a construction process takes. So that's why we are partnering with your city leaders to be ensured that we do that in the best possible fashion so that your residents can have an easy transition for options. So what's the difference? Why fiber? What makes it so special? First, it's blazing fast internet speed, faster than what you have options for today. Our service starts out going all the way up to 2 gigabit per second. And because it's fiber optics and it's glass, you have the ability to easily change to 5 gigabits per second, 10 gigabits per second. Things that enterprise businesses have access to today, you can now have access to in your home. Symmetrical means that the speed is the same going up and down. I think you and all of your residents can attest to what it's like getting home at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, when it's time to relax. You've got buffering on your TV, or it's slow, or your child that's doing the gaming system, and the people that are on the laptops are complaining about using all the bandwidth. You don't have that with fiber optics because the speed is the same both down and up. And then as far as reliability, fiber optics gives you unmatched reliability because there's no electrical impulse in our system. It is all light, speed of light. So as you look at your architecture and what you have your city today, as electricity flows through, it has to be re-amplified, and we all know what happens whenever you duplicate something over and over, it continues to degrade. You don't have that with light. So community development is big for us, and this is why we want to partner with the city. We want to not just be a vendor or somebody they choose to select as a service. We want your residents and the community to know that we're here as a community partner. So we'll be looking with your economic development teams. We'll be working with your zoning and planning commissions to be sure that we see where you're wanting to grow and what your future plans are in the city so that we can prepare those areas of town for future service. Fiber helps with also home value. And as we know, the real estate market in this time has gone through the roof. But those that are smart and savvy and want to buy a home they don't have to worry about for the future are looking for homes that are already smart homes, ready to be able to handle multiple devices. Many homes today don't just have a single TV or a single laptop. They have multiple devices, multiple cell phones, multiple plugs, multiple lights. All of these things are internet dependent, and we're future-proofed to be able to handle all of that bandwidth. So the big concerns always come with what does it look like out in the city? This just is a representation to let you know that whenever we go down your street and we look at where your utilities are today, we do utilize telephone poles that the power company usually has. But in some cases, there will be underground, and we will do our best to remediate and minimize any damage, and that's why we want to be sure that you understand we're local. We will do trenching and bury the cables in everyone's yard. There is no swag that runs from a pole to a house. Where we can, we will go underground with directional bore. And the beauty of our architecture is there are no pedestals. So sometimes when you look at your neighborhood now and you see telephone pedestals or cable pedestals that exist today, we actually are more like an irrigation system. Since fiber optics is impervious to water damage, we can be underground and there's no electricity to short out. It'll look exactly like that, like a flower pot underground for your irrigation system. On the side of the house, we only need one connection. We don't have to have multiple connections throughout the house. We need one connection. One connection, and then everything flows through Wi-Fi. At the speeds of 1 gigabit and 2 gigabits per second, you can have fantastic coverage throughout the entire home. And we also offer Wi-Fi mesh networks that ensure that no matter your house size, you get even service throughout the entire house. The only things you might see out in the community every 250 to 300 homes is a fiber distribution box, and that's to serve those areas. But again, these boxes don't have any electricity, so it's very safe. So all this said, we are very happy to say we're ready to begin this process. We're currently in our design phase right now, laying out what your city might look like as far as a network skeleton and architecture. Once that phase happens, we're excited to be able to move to the next phase, which is a low-level design, which really gets in the weeds of every single street, every single little pole that we need attached to, and then we can begin construction. Construction usually takes, for a city your size, between 6 and 9 months, and we think we can move very rapidly depending on how quickly we get poles released for attachment. So we're very excited. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Hancock?
So you'll be able to service and install within 9 months?
We believe so.
Tentatively.
Yes, absolutely. Ideally, yes. Again, I will let you know that since we're working with an electric utility company, we're at their mercy for when they approve that pole to be attached to.
Thank you.
Mr. Corbett?
Do we have any projection on cost? Everybody will want to know that if you know.
Absolutely. As we get closer to release, we'll be sharing those costs, but I can tell you it'll be very, very economical for your residents. Oftentimes 25 to 50% cheaper than what they're paying today. So in a nutshell, better speed, lower pricing, better reliability.
Mr. Mast?
Will this require any new or different or specific equipment in the home
We are providing all the equipment for the
that will
home.
be provided?
So the Wi-Fi router is provided by us. There is no cost, no rental, no nothing. And we're doing that at the latest technology that's out today, which is Wi-Fi 6E.
Mr. Engel?
So the routers we have now for our Wi-Fi will be no good.
You'll want to use ours. Ours has a
Just saying,
much
when
better
yours-
speed.
Yours comes in, we don't have to use the other.
That's correct, yes, sir. So if you're currently with your provider today renting one, gladly turn that back in.
Be more than happy to.
Oh, Mr. Leonard?
Yes. I'm wondering about the connection. In other words, you'll lay fiber within the community.
Yes, sir.
That fiber then goes to middle mile fiber,
That is correct, yes, sir.
and then that middle mile fiber goes to backbone fiber.
That's correct.
So it's pure fiber.
It's pure fiber.
Wow, that's pretty.
Yes, it is
pretty
pure
powerful.
100% fiber.
Okay, so you won't use any towers or anything like that.
No, sir.
All fiber.
All fiber.
Wow.
Mr. Rusty?
What, if you look at our community, what you have, what's the comparable service that per se would be a competition to you?
Well, you have an incumbent cable provider today. So we would. Which is Spectrum, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
It would be comparable to all the services that you can get today. We will have not only internet, but we will have video and we will have phone options. But all those will be run through the fiber optic network.
So basically what it amounts to, what you would be doing is providing a choice for our community members as to their entertainment
That is correct, yes, sir.
and other things.
That is correct. You'll be able to do everything that you want to do, and the beauty of it is you have a much faster pipe to be able to get your information back and forth.
Mrs. Crutch?
As far as cost, is there contracts that each individual household will have?
Great question. Absolutely not. No contracts, no install fees.
That's good.
Mr. Leonard?
So in terms of, you said gigabyte?
Yes.
And,
So 1,000 megabytes,
right, that's
gigabyte,
that's
but we're
exactly.
doing 2.
So where, I wanna make sure that everybody understands this. So if I have 100 megabytes, you're saying a gigabyte is 1,000.
It's 100 times faster.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you have the capability of going to 2 gigabytes.
That's correct. Well, we will be starting you with 2 gigabytes. You will have the ability to choose that as a service option.
Okay,
So there's nothing that we have to upgrade. It's going to start out where you have the option. Our service levels typically will be 500 megabyte, a gigabyte, or 2 gigabyte.
It's crazy.
Defiance again. Close to Defiance, where are you guys? Where do you provide service in this area, close to Defiance?
We currently have about 50 cities that we have targeted. We've begun construction on Clyde, Ohio, and Shelby, Ohio.
Clyde and where?
Clyde and Shelby.
Shelby.
Are they in or they started?
It's starting now. Remember, as I show you in the slide, we just got our company off the ground to do this initiative in February of this year. So we are in this phase of doing that selection process for city and working through the design phase. Yours is currently at the beginning of the design phase. We have that in the works. That typically takes us about 4 weeks to go through that. I'll be revisiting this with the city leaders and the service department and utility departments in approximately mid-June to late June with those design plans, so we can see what we need to do to take that to a low-level design plan and get the greatest detail we can. We hope to be able to start construction mid-July.
I'm grateful that you decided to come to Defiance, but I guess I'm just curious. I know you, in your opening, you said that there was an attraction to Defiance for providing this service for us. Is there a particular reason why Defiance was in your scope?
There are many factors we look at for our business reason. Part of it has to do with who the incumbent might be and what services they provide you, as well as if there are any other competitors that would be similar in the speeds that we have. And currently there aren't for Defiance. And so that's what makes our selection easy.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. On a roll.
Yeah, don't stop now. As far as like we're like our community is bringing in new industry, yearly, and it's probably going to get greater. How does something like this help attract new business?
Absolutely.
Because of what's provided to them?
Absolutely. So many commerce industry team members, as well as even developers for residential homes, oftentimes take a look at what the amenities are for being able to have faster communication networks. And that's why many of them select someplace, is because fiber exists. So this will help you from an economic development standpoint to be able to make your city more valuable to attract those industries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mast.
With this service, what will be provided? I mean, along with the internet and accessibility,
You'll have video options.
So you're talking programming?
You'll have a standard video option. You'll also have a streaming type video option that you can select from. Of course, we want to make sure that everybody understands this can be an a la carte option. So I may not want to select a video option. Maybe I am just a streamer and I would choose my Netflix or my Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever I like to get my services from. Maybe I'm a sports fan and I specifically want to do something with the Big Ten Network, or maybe I'm an F1 fan and I want to subscribe to F1. This gives you the ultimate menu of items that you can pick on your own.
Is there anywhere people can go? Is this in anywhere now that people are?
They can visit our website at omnifiber.com.
And it shows?
Yes. And as we go along with omnifiber.com and rebuild that to show more and more where we are, there will also be a construction landing page so that as we move through the construction process, they can also see when we're moving toward their area in the community.
Mr. Esty.
As far as the schools, I know there's, like you said, there's a big advantage to the community as a whole and probably the attraction to business. But as far as schools, which basically are now going to a lot of iPad usage and, technology and so on and so forth, is there a great advantage to the schools with the product that you have?
Yeah, typically this type of product is divided in a couple of categories. There's the residential side, there's the small, medium business side, and then there's the government, education, and medical side. So there's always a great benefit for them because that speed allows more people to be on, sending information up and down the path.
Thank you.
Just one, maybe you want to comment a little bit on your marketing and sales.
Absolutely. We feel it's very important to have a great buttoned-up communication plan. So as we move forward with the construction phase, there will be all sorts of materials and tactics that are utilized, such as yard signs when we get to a neighborhood, at the entrance, at the exit, et cetera, things like that, to let your residents know that we're in the area doing construction. We'll also use the typical things like the door tags with our construction guys to let them know your house is next, that type of thing. As we move forward and we're ready to light up an area, then we will begin the cadence of letting those residents know, hey, we're here. Here's how you sign up. All you have to do is go to the website and you can get signed up.
I'll ask one question. So the web of fiber is going to go to every home, every business, whether they sign up or not. It's like how's that gonna work?
Good question. So no, we do not run a drop, which is what it's called, from the utility pole or wherever it is underground. We do not run that drop until that resident or that business says, yes, I'd like your service.
If I hold tight 2 years from now, will I be able to get signed up then?
We can get you signed up pretty quick.
But
I got your
if
card.
I decide not to sign up, I want to be a wait and see guy.
Absolutely. Yes, you can sign up.
I've spent some time in
anytime you
Missouri,
want.
so I do have a show me attitude.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Mayor McKinnon.
okay.
Any other questions for our guest?
Welcome to Defiance.
Thank you.
Defiance, yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being our guest this
Thank you.
evening. With that, do we have any liaison meeting requests or reports? And any comments from council this evening? Mr. Mast?
Just want to make a couple of quick comments. Last week, we had Park Board meeting and the Shade Tree Commission meetings, and just a couple highlights from those. The Park Board, obviously the big talk was Kingsbury Pool opening June 6th. And a couple other things, we were talking about the Buckeye Trail signs that are going up. They're getting the final sign design on those, and the windscreen at the pickleball courts. And also the Park Board, and there was some discussion, and they'd really like to encourage park users, ball field users, and anyone out there to please pick up after yourself, to just try and help the city crews. If you take trash out and have a picnic, just make sure you pick up after yourself when you're done. Then on to the Shade Tree Commission. The big talk was of course the Tree City USA award ceremony that was attended a couple of Wednesdays ago by a contingent from the Shade Tree Commission, as well as the mayor and myself. We went to Findlay for the awards, and this was Rob Sarrigan, the Parks Director, accepted the award. This is the 28th time the Defiance has gotten the Tree City USA award for their activities for everything that we do here with the Shade Tree Commission, as far as taking care of trees, figuring out when to plant trees, training the young trees, soil testing. All these are parts of that make up how they get the Tree City awards. And like I said, Defiance has been good enough to get that 28 times, which was right up there in the lead on several of the communities. And then Defiance will get its opportunity to display this in 2024 when Tree City USA Awards come to Defiance, and we get to host the event. So hopefully we'll rack up 29, and that'll be 30th for us for that award ceremony.
Thank you. Mr. Rusty.
I have two questions, and first one's to Mr. Leonard. Talking to some people, more of the assurance to them that on the South Clinton Street project, sidewalk project, that before the project gets started, that we'll probably have a community meeting with those homeowners to basically explain the project and maybe for them to express any concerns they might have about their property. I just say, is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah, we can do that for sure, Joe. We've had many projects. The most recent that I can think of is we've had meetings, neighborhood meetings with dwellings and households on East High Street. That works very well. People can, and the mere fact that we did a presentation on the sidewalk issues last week, I think that we can explain just what the overall look and strategy might be for upcoming projects as well. So they'll want to know why we're doing the project. I think they probably do know why, but we can explain to them why the offset and what we're doing, even the cost of it and what it's going to mean for them, because it's certainly, they're going to be required to maintain and keep those sidewalks clear of snow and ice and things like that as well. So yeah, we can certainly do that. It's a good opportunity to communicate that as well. So
Great. Then the next question is to Mayor McCann. Spoke to a gentleman yesterday in regards to the 1918 building, and with a lot of the getting the building ready, eliminating some things off the ceilings, and also a question mark in regards to the gymnasium and restrooms. I guess, is there any updates to any of those things?
There sure are, and thank you for the question. Mr. Mack, you may want to fill in some gaps if there are any. First of all, actually DJ Zedike suggested a month or so ago that we reach out to Vaughn's scrapyard over on Defiance's east side. And we did, and Vaughn's has come in and taken as much scrap metal out as what they can possibly get. So at this point, what is left is non-metallic things that we'll probably just end up working to get to the landfill. That Vaughn's is also actually taking the boilers out of the boiler room, which was going to be something we was pretty sure we're going to be a big job. So they're working with John Mays and getting that done, and that's a pretty big deal. Recently, Richland Roofing did some repairs to the roof over the gymnasium, and Doug McDonald openly admitted the roof is showing its age, but that he thinks it's patched now. We've, along with the school, for some work they need done, we're working with Gus Weiler Electric, and they are installing some exit lights where Chief Wilkins and Assistant Chief Bowling wanted to see them. Once all that work, it's a long answer to a short question, I apologize, but once all that work is done, Chief Wilkins and Chief Bowling will both be satisfied that that area can be opened back up for the thespian groups to use for their staging, and the restrooms can be used by the public.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I actually, in a couple weeks, I believe we'll be bringing a ordinance to you to discuss a plan to develop a plan for repurposing of the gymnasium, the school building, and the auditorium.
Preliminary design.
Preliminary design, yep.
Excellent. The only thing I would add, Mayor, is that there is still some clutter in the building, and we are looking into groups right now to come in to get some of that clutter taken care of. It's not just scrap metal that was in the building. There's a lot of clutter in the hallways and things like that. So, as the mayor said, we're actively working to make it a little bit more usable space
Chief, Chief Wilkins wants to get as much of the combustible stuff out as we can. That makes sense.
Mrs. Crutch.
The Strady Center for the Arts had a board meeting, and Roger is going to be leaving, and our new directors are Jeff and Sarah Tackett. And they will be in charge of the Strady for the Center of the Arts, and we're kind of changing the name as the Council of the Arts. Still going through some changes on that, but hopefully incorporating more than just theatrical and musical entertainment, but arts as a whole. And then also I've had some people talk about grass going into the streets again. And I've kind of explained, I think it's an educational thing, telling people, but maybe you could kind of elaborate why it's so important that they don't have grass go into the streets for our sewer systems. Mr. Leonard.
Well, look, we have what's called an MS4 coordinator, and when you get runoff, not only do you get runoff from the tires on the street and the oils and things like that, but you get the grass and leaves and things like that run off as well. And it's really critical that we try to keep those that infrastructure clear of debris, because obviously it can clog things up. I can tell you one problem that we have without question is right along River Road there, where you see a pooling of water in a good rain, and that can become dangerous if we don't attend to that right away. So that's really a good example of it. That water pools, cars go through it, you can lose control, or if you don't get to it in the winter months, it can freeze over and you have problems that way.
Thank you.
So the idea is to make sure that this infrastructure is clear of debris.
So, people that ride motorcycles,
Well, I knew that.
if Mr. Waxer was here, would say that grass will blow up and can get in your eyes and things, which isn't good as well. So it's beyond the environmental concerns that Mr. Leonard outlined and safety concerns, motorcycle.
And then the other thing is on Kingsbury Pool, the murals that are being painted, we've been staying up lots of evenings. I left at 10 o'clock last night, I couldn't do it anymore. But we have over 20 community members that have come in and helped paint, from Tollgate Schools to Tenora to Ayersville to Defiance. So it's been amazing. So I'm hoping that June 5th, that Sunday, is we could possibly do a quick open house that the community people can come in and see their pool.
And you deserve an attaboy.
Well, thanks. It's been fun, but I'm tired. You know, I'm too old for no.
Well, thank you. Mr. Engel.
Go along with what Mrs. Crutch said about the grass on the street. The same residents, people do that 2 or 3 times in a row. What can the city do to have it stopped? Is there anything we can do?
It's in violation of a city ordinance.
Okay. I mean, can they get a warning, or, what can get done?
They can get a warning. I think our first move would be to issue a warning, and then they could be cited.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs.
And I
Crutch.
have to say, great job on that website. Thank you, Mr. Mack. I got it logged in, and boy, you can take pictures and shoot it off to people. It's amazing. I'm sure Mr. Dirt doesn't like me very much.
The app, you're talking about the app.
Yes, the app is amazing.
I think once people get to using it, they'll
Well,
like it.
The first time I couldn't figure it out, and then you told me I had to log in, so I did that. And it's
Already been
amazing.
admonished. I've been admonished by the assistant city administrator, because I said, we were driving and I said, oh, DJ got my pothole fixed. And he said, how'd you report that, Mayor? I said, well, pothole at citydefiance.com. You gotta use the app, sir.
Yeah.
I will report that Mr. Dirk was looking tired today. He's been working a lot this week, so.
Lots of pictures going out.
Mr. Rusty.
Just to finish up to what was just said, if there is somebody that does mow the grass out into the streets, that would be considered a nuisance?
I don't know whether it's
I don't know if that's
a nuisance or a violation.
It's in chapter 9 of, or title 9 of our code. I can get you the exact citation.
Well, what I'm saying is to bring it to the right,
How to report it?
report it. Do you report it to as a nuisance, to report it to the city?
If you report it as a nuisance, we'll eventually cite them under the right code provision.
Okay,
But
just get it to you guys and.
Either Mr. Dirk or Ms. Feeney or Ms. Simon up front would be able to get it to the right place.
Any other comments from council? I just have two things. Next week is the 31st, and so that will be the 5th Tuesday of the month. Our next official meeting is Tuesday, June 7th. And last week on the 17th, we had a special meeting in order to address the sidewalk and a couple ordinances. Prior to that, we had a meeting on the 10th. I said all that because since then, we've had the Lilac Festival. And when me and my family were walking down along the Lilac Festival, I had, several people stop me and say, make sure you mention to council and to the Board of Control and to everyone who will hear, it was well attended, nicely put together. And usually I don't have people stopping me to compliment things. Usually it's other concerns or to complain or something. But they said, make sure to say it was a beautiful day, wonderfully organized.
Kirsty Mack.
Yep.
And her team.
Good job. But that's what's on my plate. Mayor McKinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's talk about the good and exciting stuff, and then I'll wrap it up with something we need the community's help on. First of all, next Monday is our annual Memorial Day service to be held at Riverside Cemetery, unless the weather doesn't cooperate, at which time we will move down to the community auditorium. That will be at 10 o'clock, last about an hour. We've always got excellent feedback on the event itself, and I'm hoping as many community members, and it's well attended. So we look forward to seeing everybody, and we've added a few things to the agenda. Some young people reading some different things that I know folks will enjoy hearing. Secondly, something that we've been talking about that's been around, and I know council's aware of this, that actually we're finally going to get underway on the 300 block of Clinton Street right downtown. So at what would be the southwest corner, the building most commonly known as Ellen Up's building or Fifth Stitch, Ellen will be moving down behind Kistner's on Perry Street, and that building will be undergoing significant exterior and interior renovation. But later this week, people may start to see barricades assemble there, and next week we'll be putting barricades up. Those sidewalks will be closed, and the parking on the west side, the south side of 2nd Street will be, the diagonal parking that's there, half dozen or so spaces will be closed. And we may lose a parking place in front on Clinton Street as well. There'll be no pedestrian traffic, no parking in there. The process is going to be dirty, it's going to be wet, and so we'll need to keep everyone at a distance. There will be room to assemble on the other side of the street and supervise that project from there for those that have a mind to do that. It's going to be quite a transformation of that building, and we're excited about it. And as I said, exterior work for the next 4 or 5 months, and then interior work will follow. And hopefully in a year or so, we'll have several new apartments for rent and some other amenities on the main floor. Pretty exciting. Been waiting for it a long time.
Will the corner be closed, correct?
Correct. It'll be open to vehicular traffic.
I mean, to go across from the corner, so the corner is closed off. Which is where the upbuilding is.
Right.
So that, so people cannot go across the street either way, correct?
Correct. I think, let me explain it to you this way, Mr. Rusty, and I know where you're going with this. So if you were gonna go from the old Sherman's Men's Store, or Bloomfield's Barber Shop, and you wanted to go down to the coffee shop, you're gonna have to cross Clinton Street, cross 2nd Street, and then go down to 3rd Street and come back across. Or how I would go would be cross East 2nd Street, down the alley that's behind Ellen Up's building, and then in the back door of the coffee shop. So that alley is very walkable, and half of it's paved. So, it's very walkable but no, that's gonna be completely closed. You would have to be out into the street, nearly as a pedestrian. We certainly wouldn't recommend that.
And, no jaywalking, right?
No jaywalking. It's tough enough if you're in the crosswalk. So I think, I'm not joking, we've had 4 near misses in the last 3-4 weeks.
We had somebody this morning.
Another 5 near misses.
Have we moved forward with the no turn on reds there on those?
We're working on that. We're waiting for Manick and Smith, and I apologize for the delay, Mr. Corbett, but I will say that every engineering firm we're working with right now, including our own, is backlogged. Well, I think that's it on that project, and I know that there'll be more information coming. Talked about Memorial Day, and then, the events of the day out in Texas, I almost didn't want to talk about this, but I think I have to because it's getting to be a real problem. It's something. Mr. Leonard, as long as I've been around City Hall, has always had what's referred to as a biweekly. He has biweeklies with wastewater and water, and Rob and DJ and Melinda and Jen English and others, and Mr. Mack has been right there with him, and they were out last week and visited with Mr. Sarrigan and Mr. Zedike, and I'll just read you this line from the minutes. It's very upsetting, very disgusting, because as Mrs. Crutch acknowledged, and I think all council would acknowledge, we've made a real effort in our parks the last 5-6 years, and we have something to be proud of, and apparently we have some folks that maybe aren't as proud. Park employees are having to clean up feces on the floor, walls, etc. Dirty diapers are not being disposed of properly. One recommendation is to close down the restrooms for a period of time and have porta-johns installed to see if we can get this in order. But listen, parents are going to have to start parenting, and we're going to, if this persists, we'll lock up the restrooms, we'll put porta-johns, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do. I've seen companies do this over the years.
I think it's a good idea. And I think it's not to punish anybody, but basically at least provide a service. But if this is all we can provide and it's manageable, then that's what we need to do.
I think what we're trying to do, Mr. Rusty, and appreciate the supporting comments, is bring folks' attention to it. That maybe parents need, I know you got 2 or 3 children you're keeping an eye on at the splash pad, and one of them needs to go to the restroom. You really don't want to leave the 2 to go 10 to the 1. You just may have to take all 3 along. I don't necessarily know how we take care of this, but it needs to be taken care of because it's disgusting.
Our parks people work hard enough day in and day out, keeping the parks beautiful for the community without being subjected to that on a day-to-day basis.
As I said, with the day's events, I didn't really want to talk about it, but we're 2 weeks away from another meeting and it needs to be dealt with now. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Mack?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Leonard?
Same.
Okay. Well, we do have 2 items of legislation for consideration this evening. Would you read the caption for the first, Ms. Elders?
First reading by caption only, an ordinance awarding a contract for roof replacement at the water pollution control plant and declaring emergency.
Mr. Leonard?
I'll take that one.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you. The roofs on 4 of the outbuildings at the water pollution control plant are between 20 and 25 years old. And a lot's happened over the last 20, 25 years. You think 20 years ago, Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls. But more importantly, Johns Manville, local company, has developed a better composite rubber material for our roofs and more consequential in global events. And some of these roofs that we have are starting to leak, so it's time to replace them. The city desires to replace the roofs with the new Johns Manville EPDM rubber roofing surfaces. Now, Water Pollution Control Superintendent Leonard and Assistant Superintendent Kevin Connor properly solicited quotes from at least 3 vendors. And Buckeye Roofing and Exteriors submitted the lowest quote at $44,900 to replace those roofs. It is an emergency request. You heard the mayor talking about other vendors that are filling up, and roofers are no different. And we'd like to get on the schedule this year and lock in this price. And if all goes well, you will have continue to have a well-maintained water pollution control plant, and maybe see a carbon copy of this ordinance in 30 years when Tom Brady does retire.
Thank you. Mr. Corbett.
Thank you for that detailed explanation of that ordinance, sir. I appreciate it. If there's no further questions, motion to suspend the call.
If we have no other questions, we have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
And Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And
Motion to adopt.
motion to adopt, Mr. Engel?
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast?
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance establishing the salary and vacation leave of the city human resource manager and declaring emergency.
Mr. Leonard?
This one I'll take, thank you. So 2 weeks ago, we met with you in executive session to discuss the current status of our human resources vacancy. And we had expressed that we had found a candidate who was highly qualified and that we wanted to pursue, but that we believed we were going to have to have a competitive offer in order to get her. And we had something of a green light from you folks to proceed along those lines, and we have. This ordinance authorizes a pay and benefits package that is in excess of what the administration can offer without your authority. Lainey Lambert is the candidate. She brings about 13 or so years of government experience, 10 of which has been as an HR manager. She currently works in municipal government, and so just brings just the perfect match of qualifications to this position. So based on her relevant experience, her time in service, and quite honestly, her value in the current marketplace, this ordinance would authorize a salary of $84,500. And again, based on her time in service, albeit in other governmental entities, 4 weeks of vacation. We are excited to have her come. We think she'll be a great addition to the city workforce. We would ask the council authorize this offer.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Leonard in these regards? Mr. Uresti?
From what we've been told, this appears to be a very good choice for our community, so, or for the administration, so, good job.
Any other questions, Mr. Mast?
No further questions. Motion to suspend and call.
We have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Crutch. Second.
Second.
Mr. Hancock?
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
And this ordinance is also adopted.
And I have a confession to make.
Confess.
I'm the one that gave you those in
Oh.
the wrong order, so that was my fault. I threw you off your game and I apologize.
All right, with the issues of legislation addressed, if we have any citizens' concerns, if the council receive any emails or contact, would you like to speak during citizens' concerns?
Yeah, if you got a moment.
Sure, please come to the mic, state your name and address, and.
My name's Robert Mann III. I live at 263 Broadway.
Sure.
Okay, my concern is, I was visiting a family friend the other day at 403 Seneca Street. I don't know if you're familiar with that, they're, where Seneca Street is, right there, but you got Little Caesars here and the stoplight, there's a church, there's a house right after the church, and then the road kind of curves like this. Right on that curve, there appears to be an alleyway there. That alleyway is actually their property. And then I was cited for parking in a city alleyway. And then because I was gonna fight it, now it went from a $25 parking ticket to like, they're talking like $200 some to take it to court and all this. Cause I got a court cost and on top of that and everything. Because I was cited for parking on their property. And then I went to the auditor's website and looked up all the property records on it and went out and located the property marker. If this is the alleyway here and this is their house, or what the cop is calling an alleyway, and this is their house right here in their yard, the property marker is literally 1 foot away from being on that side. So all of this that is their alleyway, the cops are saying, is their part of their property. So my question would be, when did the city annex their property without telling anybody? And if that's not the case, how am I being cited for parking on private property? I don't know if you guys can help me with that because nobody else seems to, so I just figured this would be the best place I can get some answers from.
I'm not sure we can answer your question until we see a map of where the right-of-ways begin and end. Okay, that would be the first thing. Have you been over to the court, and is your case over with?
Yes, currently.
Okay, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, because your remedy, and Sean, you can speak to this, would have been at the courthouse, am I correct?
Yes, and they
to pay a parking ticket?
Did you plead guilty? Or,
no, I didn't.
You were found guilty?
No, it's not something that goes to court like that. They said
it's part of the due process that we have.
Well, that's not what happened. He said, pay a ticket or you go to jail.
Okay, so you
So
probably
I paid $100 and some in court costs plus the $25 ticket to the police department.
you probably pled guilty by
I did
default
not.
by forfeiting your bond is what
Definitely
happened.
did not do that.
Well, that's probably the effect of what you did.
I don't know. I'm just still wondering what gives them the right to come on private property and write me a parking ticket anyways? And then threaten to issue an arrest warrant for not showing up to pay this parking ticket. I'm on private property, like.
Here's what we need to do, sir.
That's the problem I don't understand.
Here's what we need to do. After the adjourn, just ask you to sit back down. After we adjourn, we'll get your phone number. We'll look into this. You say it's private property. We don't know. Mr. Leonard said we'll have to look and see if it's a dedicated alley.
Right.
If it's a public alley, then I'm sorry, you were wrong. If it's a private alley, then we'll have to make this right with you.
On top of that, on 5/22, Toledo Edison was out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, until almost 10 o'clock at night, cutting down the city trees that are knocking down the power, that literally knocked the power lines down for the alleyway behind the house, the residences there, which is that access way for the telephone poles. So my question would be, why isn't the city taking care of the trees in these alleyways that they should be doing?
The city has Toledo Edison has an easement to run their power lines through there. And if any of those trees are impacting their power lines in that easement, they have every right to trim them.
Yeah, they were there trimming them, but the guy said it was your guys' responsibility. That's why they're not taking. I don't know. I'm just going by what he said.
He provided you with bad information.
Okay, that's fine. I understand. I apologize then. I was just wondering. I don't know. The other question I had was, have you by any chance gone for a walk in the middle of the night, say maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, by any chance, or 3 o'clock, or anytime where businesses aren't open, just to enjoy the night air? No? If you live on, say, the north side of town, or you're by the college, and you take a walk down to the only place open, at sometimes at night, say Shell way out there, and then on the way back, you have to use the restroom. Where do you go to the restroom? Why, there's public drinking fountains downtown, there's no public bathrooms. What?
There are public restrooms, but we have to secure those in the evening You heard me mention earlier about vandalism in our parks restrooms. And because of that, we have to secure them. There can be in public restrooms like that in the middle of the night, sadly, other nefarious activity that we don't want going on in our community, and the best way to discourage it is lock those up.
Okay, I understand that.
And our guests for citizens' concerns are given 5 minutes.
All right, thank you.
But thanks for coming and thanks for voicing your concerns. If those are the citizens' concerns for this evening, do we have a motion to adjourn until our next meeting, which would be on the beginning of June? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. And a second. Mr. Hancock, all those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?